And that will be the sound today at Nationals Park as the first pitch is thrown at 4 o'clock by none other than the commissioner of baseball, Rob Manfred. Pretty significant that he's coming here to Washington, D.C. to throw out the first pitch. Also significant that clearly God is smiling on your Washington Nationals as he has given us a beautiful day for opening day, 77 degrees and sunny. And that's why we want to talk Nats baseball right now with Fred Fromer. He is a journalist and author of a book on Washington baseball history. You got to have heart. A history of Washington baseball from 1859 to the 2012 National League East champions. And, well, forget about the East champions. Everyone's saying this team's going to win the World Series. I mean, we might as well just cut to the chase in October, right, Fred?
Yeah, where's my ring? I was like, Bryce Harper, right?
But I'm not overstating the case. I mean, it's across the board. I'm seeing it from all the experts. So should we be worried?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes the World Series or a bust mentality can backfire, as we saw a couple of years ago. But I'm pretty confident. I think this team, I mean, they really are built for October with the starting rotation as deep as it is. They may get off to a little bit of a slow start because you got three starters in the lineup that will be injured to start the season. But once they get into high gear, I think they're going to run away with the division without problem.
I agree with you, but my partner this morning, Dan Bongino, is the shadow of doom. Go ahead and raise your objections.
I've got to be the antagonist on this one, Fred. Here's my take on this. I love baseball, played baseball all throughout high school and through the first year of college. The bullpen to me seems weak, and these are the kind of teams that it seems to me, can rack up great regular season records, 100-plus wins, and then they get to these, 5 and 7 game series, and without a bullpen, they can't close the deal. Am I wrong?
No, you're right about that. Drew Storen hasn't really proven that he can handle the bullpen in playoffs. It's been a small sample size. I think we'll have to see what happens with the bullpen this year. I mean, Storen had a fantastic year last year. The year before, he was obviously off his game. I think that we found with the Nationals and other teams is that a lot of them can make mid-season corrections in the bullpen and much more easily than they can with their starting rotation because there's so many young, hard-throwing guys you can throw out there. And, if Storen struggles in the middle of the season, maybe they make an adjustment. If he has a good season, fingers crossed, and maybe third time's a charm for him, and he has a good performance in the playoffs.
It seems like Adam LaRoche last year, the first baseman for the Nats, was Mr. Clutch at very important times. I mean, he would often come up with the big double or the big home run. And is that going to be a big hole in the lineup this year with LaRoche moving on?
Well, I think the lineup is still pretty deep. You had Ryan Zimmerman missing a whole lot of season last year. Now he's got a position that he's probably more comfortable with. And it's true, LaRoche was very clutch during the regular season, but he, like most of the offense, went really cold in the playoffs. And so, the question is who's going to, assuming they make it that far, I think most of us agree that they will make the playoffs, who will step up. I think Harper showed that he can really dominate on that big October stage.
Last year, Harper was the only bat that showed up in the lineup. But what about his regular season last year? And is he going to finally fulfill the promise that he's had since that great rookie season?
I think so. He's lost a little bit of weight, and I think somehow it's hard to prove this kind of thing. We'll have to wait and see. But we're hoping that the performance he had in October will carry over, and he's got the confidence. Not that he was ever really lacking for it, but I think that.
Yeah. Oh, great! Bryce Harper now has confidence.
He was just a shrinking violet until
yeah, exactly.
October.
That's a clown statement, bro.
Fred,
I was reading a Sports Illustrated piece about the writer Tom Verducci asked him kind of why do you think guys don't give you players don't give you the benefit of doubt. Why, you can he's got kind of a negative reputation. He goes, because you put me on the cover of Sports Illustrated when I was 16 years old.
And my personal preference, Fred, is I would rather a guy who's a above average player during the season. And let's be honest, Harper has not met the spectacular expectations yet, but who's a phenomenal postseason player than the opposite. I think back to remember Dave Winfield, Mr. May? And then you had David Ortiz and guys that, David Ortiz in the playoffs who was just, a monster. So that makes me at least confident that in those stressful situations, you're not going to get an A-Rod type player who just, abandoned ship.
Right, and actually Rendon had a pretty good postseason as well, but the rest of the team was very cold. I mean, they had, I think, a 1.23 ERA in that series. They still lost, 3-1. So, the offense just went so cold in the postseason, and you hope that doesn't happen bullpen this year.
Let's talk about Rendon for a minute, because I think a lot of Nats fans who will tune in today's game will be disappointed to see he, as well as Denard Span, as well as Jason Worth, three big players in that lineup, out on the 15-day disabled. Early on in the season here, is it more of a pitcher's kind of advantage where the hitters are going to be a little slow picking up that ball, and since we've got such great arms, we're going to be able to make up for the holes in our lineup?
Yeah, I know. That's a good point. The offense usually takes a little time to catch up to the pitching. The ball doesn't carry as far. And, of course, baseball isn't really an offensive recession, has been for several years now. Strikeouts are at a record number. The scoring is well down across baseball. So pitching becomes even more important. And the Nationals do have that kind of shutdown rotation. They got the amazing thing about this rotation is it's not only do they have, four potential aces, but you have a guy go down, which is going to happen. One or two starting pitchers go down. You got Tanner Roark that can step in and him not miss a beat. So
Tanner Roark was amazing last year. He was a revelation.
He was, and he had a good year the year before, so it's not he was a one-time wonder. But, the depth of rotation is really an equally important strength to this team because, you can really bang. I hate when teams go in thinking, we've got five starting pitchers and we're totally set. We don't need a sixth or seventh. You always do. Guys are never, you're not going to have all five of your guys pitch the entire season without an injury.
Well, Fred, that brings up an interesting question on depth. Let's get out of the major league. I mean, how's their AAA, end of the season, they're calling up players. Is there anyone potentially at the end of the season, if it was close and they needed some depth and some new arms, do they have any fresh arms in AAA that we could be, could be game changers towards the end of the season?
I've heard the name Cole as a possibility for late in the season. I'm not sure if he's at AA or AAA. I know in general the Nationals are really happy about their deep pipeline in pitching, and that's why they're not so worried about letting a guy like Zimmerman walk. Maybe a little less worried than I would be. I think it'd be a shame to lose him, but it's clear that they're probably going to after having signed Max Scherzer. So I think they've got the depth both on the major league rotation and in the minors. And that'll obviously come in handy as injuries will come up, as they often do during the regular season.
Quick follow-up on the pitching here. You look at it with Scherzer and Strasburg and Zimmerman. All right-handers, though. Is there a concern that really Gio Gonzalez is the only significant lefty out of that bullpen, not out of the bullpen, but coming in to pitch?
I don't think so. I think one lefty would suffice. The Cardinals put together a really good season the last year, and if memory serves, they were all right-handed. Starting pitchers, so I think it's not really a problem as long as you have a dominant. Sometimes it can be a bigger problem on the offense. You've got a lineup that's all left-handed, and you can be susceptible to a really tough left-handed pitcher. But somehow, if it doesn't work the other way around quite so much. Right-handed pitchers aren't as vulnerable to lefties as left-handed pitch hitters are to left-handed pitchers. It's one of those things.
Hey, Fred, just a double follow-up on that question. Haven't played baseball. I think that is the most overrated thing in baseball.
Really?
Randy Johnson was a mauler, not just because he was a lefty, but because he threw 99 miles an hour and occasionally took someone's head off. I just think it's overrated. I think you're right. I don't think it's going to matter much. The coaches look at it a lot, but I think it's overrated. Just my opinion.
Well, you do see, there are some left-handed hitters, really good left-handed hitters, that just get tied up in knots against left-handed pitchers. And, maybe it's a psychological thing or what have you, but...
No, my theory on this, Fred?
Yeah, go ahead.
I was a right-handed hitter, and there aren't a lot of left-handed pitchers, and you can see the ball longer. So if you're a right-handed hitter, like most people are, it's a benefit. When you see a lefty, which is a rarity, it's great. Left-handed hitters rarely see lefties, and they can't see the ball as long, and that's why.
Right. I think you're not exposed as often. I think that's definitely the case.
Well, setting aside all the X's and O's, it's going to be a beautiful day out there at Nationals Park for opening day. And also, by the way, the commissioner throwing out the pitch, significant because we're learning now that the All-Star game will be played here in a couple of years. So a baseball town, do you think it's officially a baseball town?
It is a baseball town. I don't think it is quite yet baseball number one town.
Right.
I don't know if that'll ever happen. I'm hoping it will. If the Redskins put together another terrible 5 or 6 years, maybe the things will change. But, Washington was a really good baseball town for a good chunk of time in the 20s and 30s. But that was when they were winning, the only time they really had successful teams before now. And I think, now that we've got 3 really good seasons in a row and hopefully a 4th one this year, we're going to become even more of a baseball team.
We'll leave it there. Fred Frommer, great to have you. And as the season goes on, we will talk about your book, You Gotta Have Heart.